A cop pulled his gun on a man who had spent his life protecting the country. But by the time the officer realized his mistake, it was already too late. The gas station buzzed quietly under dim, flickering lights. It sat alone on the edge of a calm highway in Bakersfield, California. It was late, too late for much traffic, but just early enough for a few travelers to stop by for gas or a snack. Inside, the lone cashier leaned on the counter, scrolling through his phone, barely noticing as Obadiah Kane placed a water bottle and a pack of gum on the counter. Just a simple purchase. Nothing out of the ordinary. Obadiah swiped his card, gave a polite nod, and stepped back into the cool night air. Crickets chirped in the distance, blending with the soft sound of cars passing by. He let out a deep breath and rolled his shoulders, feeling the ache from the long drive. But this was a man used to carrying much heavier weight. Then, headlights cut across the pavement. A police cruiser sped into the lot, tires crunching over gravel. Inside was Officer Brent Calloway. He had no idea who Obadiah Kane was. He didn't see a man who had led thousands of soldiers into battle, who had sat in war rooms with presidents, who had made life-and-death decisions for decades. No, Calloway only saw what he chose to see. A black man alone at night, wearing casual clothes, driving a car that seemed too nice. To him, that was enough. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. Another one, he thought. Reports had been coming in. Suspicious activity around gas stations. That car, with that driver, didn't sit right with him. His heart started pounding. Maybe this was it. The moment young cops talk about back at the station. The moment you trust your gut and make a move. He stepped out of the car, one hand already on his gun. Obadiah didn't hear him at first. He was opening his water bottle, tossing the gum onto the passenger seat of his SUV. He had no idea trouble was coming his way, until a voice sliced through the night. Stop right there. Hands where I can see them. Obadiah froze. He turned just enough to see it. The shine of the gun aimed right at his chest. For a split second, his body reacted on instinct. Years of military training, of facing life or death choices, kicked in, but he didn't move, not an inch, because this wasn't a battlefield. This wasn't Afghanistan. It wasn't Iraq. This wasn't a war zone where he'd stared down danger and survived. This was home. And yet, the look in Calloway's eyes said it didn't matter. On the ground now, the officer's hands trembled. His stance was tense, but his grip on the gun was steady, too steady. His breathing was fast, and the adrenaline was already rushing. Obadiah had seen this before. A man who had already made up his mind. Slowly, carefully, he lifted his hands to chest level. Open and clear, he spoke calmly, like he would to a young soldier about to make a bad call. Officer, is there a problem? But Calloway wasn't listening. He wasn't seeing Obadiah Kane. He was seeing a threat, a suspect, not a general, not a war hero, not a man who had served his country. Obadiah could feel it, all of it, the tension, the danger. One wrong move, one slight shift, and it could all end in gunfire. Then, flashing red and blue lights flooded the lot. Another police car pulled up fast. Doors flew open, and a new voice broke through the chaos. Wait! Stop! In an instant, the night shifted. Obadiah didn't move a muscle, didn't breathe too deeply, didn't lower his hands. Obadiah had seen what happens when men in uniform make quick decisions, those split-second calls that end lives. But this wasn't war. There were no hidden snipers, no backup waiting on a signal. Just a gas station parking lot, a nervous young cop with a gun, and a situation spinning out of control. And Obadiah knew something Officer Brent Calloway didn't. The young ones are the most dangerous, not because they're mean, not because they want power, but because they feel like they have something to prove to themselves, to their bosses, to the badge. Calloway didn't see a man. He didn't see a decorated war hero. He saw what he wanted to see, a black man alone, late at night in an expensive SUV. To him, that was enough. Just a profile, a reason, a suspicion. Obadiah had been through worse. He was raised in Louisiana, during a time when certain gas stations wouldn't even let someone like him walk through the door. His father, a hard-working mechanic, once told him, They'll judge you right away, son. Your job is to give them nothing they can use against you. So Obadiah worked twice as hard. Made it through West Point. Spent 30 years proving himself in combat. In military circles, his name meant something in some places around the world. When he walked into a room, soldiers stood at attention. But here, tonight, none of that mattered. Because right now, his rank couldn't protect him. He kept his voice steady and calm. "Officer, I'm going to reach for my wallet." Then, slowly, painfully slow, he started to move. Just a small shift toward his pocket. But Calloway stiffened up immediately. "Don't move," the officer barked. Obadiah froze. Hands still up, fingers spread wide. His jaw tightened, but he kept his expression even. He knew how this worked. He knew what men like Calloway told themselves after it was over. He moved too fast. He looked suspicious. I thought he had a weapon. No, Obadiah wasn't giving that excuse. He didn't move, didn't flinch, barely even breathed, but he saw it, the cop's finger twitching on the trigger. And for the first time that night, Obadiah felt it, the real possibility that this kid might actually fire, because the way Calloway held that gun, he'd already convinced himself he was in danger. Then, screeching tires. Flashing red and blue lights hit the pavement. Another police car pulled in, faster than expected. When the second officer jumped out, Obadiah saw it immediately. Recognition. She knew him, and everything was about to change. She moved quickly, too quickly to be unsure. She didn't pause, didn't question what she was seeing. Lieutenant Vanessa Grayson had been on the force long enough to know when a rookie had lost control. And the moment she stepped out of her cruiser and looked around, her gut twisted. A civilian with his hands in the air. A cop still pointing his weapon. The tension so thick, it felt like the air could snap. Then she looked again. The man standing under the gas station lights. His build, his posture, his face. She knew him. General Obadiah Kane. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. This was bad, really bad. But Calloway didn't notice. He had no idea what was about to happen next. Calloway's jaw stayed tight. His breath was heavy. He knew another officer had shown up, but in his mind, she was here to back him up. This man was acting suspicious, he snapped, voice defensive. "I need him in cuffs." But Lieutenant Grayson didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on Obadiah. She knew his face. She'd seen him in military reports, read about him in briefings. She knew exactly who he was. The weight of what was happening hit her hard, but she only had one shot to stop this before it turned into something no one could undo. "Calloway," she said evenly, her tone calm, steady. "Put your gun down." That threw him. He jerked his head toward her, confused. "What?" He's not complying. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. But it carried authority now. An edge that couldn't be ignored. "That man," she said clearly, "is General Obadiah Kane." The words cut through the silence like a gunshot. Color drained from Calloway's face. His grip on the gun loosened. Grayson took a step forward, lowering her voice just enough to make it personal. "You just pulled a gun on a 4-star general." A sick, heavy feeling settled deep in Calloway's stomach. He knew that name. He'd heard it before. He just hadn't connected the dots. Until now. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Obadiah watched him carefully. He'd seen that look before, not just on police officers or soldiers, but on men who realized too late they'd cross a line they couldn't take back. Calloway's breathing sped up. His eyes darted between Obadiah and Grayson. His confidence cracked like thin ice under pressure. But Obadiah knew it wasn't just about him anymore. Something else was happening. A faint red light. A small glow. A phone. Recording. Then a voice from nearby. Stunned. "Oh my God, are you seeing this?" A bystander. A witness. And suddenly, this wasn't just a bad situation. It was evidence. The video started small, shaky, blurry, posted by the first person who had the sense to hit record. But soon, more clips popped up, different angles, different voices, but the same story. A highly respected general, a gun in his face, and a young cop who never hesitated. Within hours, the footage was everywhere. Cable news played it again and again. Headlines were harsh and clear. Police officer pulls gun on four-star general in shocking gas station encounter. Rookie cop tries to arrest war hero. The backlash hit hard. People across the country were furious. Veterans were the first to speak out, loud and angry. This man gave his life to serve this country, a former Marine shouted during a live interview. And this is how we treat him? You think this was just a mistake? He added. No, this is a pattern. Politicians started weighing in, some calling for justice, others brushing it off as a misunderstanding. But the public wasn't buying it. Hashtags flooded the internet. Hashtag General Kane. Hashtag Justice for Kane. Hashtag Police Reform Now. Twitter exploded with outrage. Instagram lit up with reposts of the video. It landed on Reddit's front page, sparking thousands of fiery debates. Because this story wasn't just about General Kane anymore. It was about every black man who had been seen as a threat before he was seen as a human being. Every wrongful stop, every false arrest, every split-second decision that ended a life. This time, the man lived, and because he lived, the Bakersfield Police Department had no way out. Within 24 hours, Officer Calloway was put on administrative leave. The mayor issued a statement. We take this matter very seriously. The police chief held a press conference. He looked uneasy, trying to calm the storm. His words were stiff, rehearsed. We recognize the seriousness of the event. A full investigation is in progress. But people didn't want words. They wanted justice. The public doesn't want talk. They want action. And while Officer Calloway disappears behind red tape and silence, Obadiah Kane doesn't. When the interview requests start pouring in, he doesn't avoid them. He chooses one. Not to speak about himself, but to focus on something bigger. Because this was never just about him. And now, the whole world is watching. The lights in the studio are bright, almost blinding. But Obadiah doesn't flinch. He stood in combat zones, sat in rooms where decisions were made in seconds, decisions that meant life or death. Compared to that, this is nothing. But this matters. He sits tall across from the anchor in the CBS studio. Back straight, eyes steady. The anchor leans forward, fingers linked, voice careful but curious. General Kane, the video of your experience has been seen by millions. Can you walk us through what was going through your mind in that moment? Obadiah lets the question sit. He's in no rush. Then, with the same calm presence he once used to lead troops, he answers. I was thinking about how close I came to being just another name on a list. The air in the studio goes still. The anchor doesn't speak. He lets those words land. Obadiah continues. That officer didn't see me. Not really. He saw a story he'd already made up in his head. His voice is clear, strong. There's no anger, no drama, just truth. And how many times has that same mistake been made? He asks. How many times has it ended differently? He pauses, shifts slightly in his chair, hands pressed together. I'm alive because I knew how to stay calm, because I've been trained for pressure, for danger. But should staying alive really depend on that? Even before the full interview airs, clips of his words start going viral. People don't just hear him, they feel him. Social media fills with quotes from his answers. I'm alive because I knew how to stay calm. But should survival really depend on that? He didn't see me. He saw a target. Veterans, activists, community leaders. They all rally behind him. And suddenly, this isn't just about what happened that night. It's about the system that keeps letting it happen. The Bakersfield Police Department is forced to respond. Another press conference. The chief looks tired, the stress showing. We're launching new training programs, he says, focusing on de-escalation, reviewing policies for racial bias. But the public isn't satisfied. Protests grow. Lawsuits are filed. The Department of Justice opens an investigation. And Officer Brent Calloway, he quietly resigns. No press statement. No apology. No responsibility. But Obadiah Kane isn't after just one man. He's after real change. As the interview wraps up, the anchor tilts his head and asks, General Kane, what do you hope comes from this? Obadiah looks directly into the camera, right at the people watching at home. We say protect and serve. But that promise can't be selective. The room goes silent. If a man can spend his life serving his country, only to come home and be seen as a threat, then we've got a much deeper problem. The camera stays on him for a moment, long enough for his words to settle. Then the screen fades to black. Because this story was never just about one man. It's about the moments that don't get caught on video, the mistakes that don't make the headlines, the lives that don't get a second chance. Next time, the ending could be different. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? If this story made you stop and think, don't just scroll past. Share it. Talk about it. Demand better.